Good morning. I had a lot of fun early in life with involvement in the scouting movement. The motto of Cubs is do your best. Of Scouts is be prepared. The motto of Rovers is service. The combination of these is do your best to be prepared for service. I am very happy to tell you that I maintain a daily reflection along these lines to attempt some sort of usefulness in life. The reason I mention it at all is the gross evidence from the life exhibited by Premier McGowan in his abundant failures, even over the latest 4-year tenure with the Western Australian Labor Party. Very nearly every day of the past 12 months, the Premier has been linked with the success of our state in its handling of the foreign developed pandemic. At times of uncertainty, the Premier quotes the advice of the health professionals. That's good. He follows good medical advice. What we need to remember is that a quality Premier of any party would follow good medical advice. We do thank Mr McGowan for doing his job. We do not need to worship him. To shut up and lock down a most productive third of the state over a single COVID case in Perth was unnecessary and dangerous. We proved we could isolate. He proved our compliance. But we still like our fought for freedoms and we resent his overkill. Mr McGowan, get a knighthood, then have a holiday. With regard to the most recent and devastating fires close to Perth, the Premier is perfectly right to consider and congratulate the men and women who put their lives at serious risk attempting to preserve life and property of endangered people. It must be well noted that if adequate fuel reduction had been of sufficient prior concern, he would not have needed to be so congratulative. It is a monstrous oversight, to be kind, that adequate fuel reduction had not taken place in the cooler months preceding fire season. No knighthood, but still, take a holiday. Do your best, Mr McGowan, to be prepared for service. I see that the Premier is promising a new and very necessary enlarged police presence in Baldivis. Why is it that Mr McGowan's current arrangements are proving sufficiently inappropriate that such a large increase is in fact necessary? How is it that a new facility will be built on land as yet unselected in an area not yet chosen? Of all the incidents attended over the last 2 years, how many of them would have been attended any more quickly had there been a Baldivis base? I do listen to people. I will act on your choices. We can work together to benefit Baldivis. The aim to do one's best to be prepared for service is very hard for a lawyer whose very first lesson at law school is look after number one. So, despite occupational jobs and despite subsequent extensions into, for example, the Navy and, for example, politics, the fundamental philosophy, look after number one, can never be replaced, can never be changed. How then could Mr McGowan ever have any true sympathy for those people who streamed to Perth's tent city, who streamed to Fremantle's tent city, who are awaiting eviction from Rockingham's tent city? Perhaps a social worker could take up residence in tent city and properly get to know the inhabitants. It's a shame that so many suitable caravan parks have been allowed to be sold. If you, the voters, have any sympathy for homeless and displaced persons, and if you really want some improvement for them, then you must vote for someone other than any Labor candidate. Mr. McGowan and your team, take a break. There are 15 aged care facilities around Rockingham. That's on your watch, Mr. McGowan. 15 facilities with their attendant number of beds and patients. On your watch, Mr. McGowan, the current federal inquiry stipulates a minimum of some sort of deficiency in relation to 1/3 of those places. On your watch, Mr. McGowan, time for your team to take a break. Time for the local voters to change the watch. Elect watchmen who will not hesitate to involve the local constabulary in aged care criminal deficiencies. Restore dignity to our parents and grandparents. Unfortunately, my time here today does not allow me to detail Mr. McGowan's continuing lack of proper control of drugs in jails, of the lamentable increase of overseas ownership of our valuable assets, of the noisy inefficiency of improperly controlled so-called childcare centres, of the lack of overseas students who could now be vaccinated before admittance to restore that side of our education diversification, of the education of suitable persons in TAFE courses, making sure of adequate enrolments, rather than just shutting a course, for example project management, because of a claim of insufficient students. Come on, Mr. McGowan, if you can't cut the mustard, then take a break and let someone else do the job properly. Ladies and gentlemen, your absolutely best solution is to elect an independent candidate who is willing and capable of properly representing your electorate. The best independents have already been pre-selected and endorsed as genuinely capable by Pauline Hanson's One Nation, and they stand ready to properly serve you. Liberal and Labor have proved to you their inability and inefficiency. Single-shot independents lack a depth and lack party backing. One Nation men and women stand willing, ready and able to genuinely serve you. Please remember yourselves when you vote. One Nation,